I remember I started way back in the north, you know, towards the evening time, children come together playing around. And there was this particular game we're always looking up to, with an older child. As she should be about 3 or 4 years older than myself, if I remember very well. And we'll come together and we'll play and we just keep fingering one another. But as at then, for me, it was just a game that we're always looking up to have.
The abuse was not an experience. It was not an experience. It's what it is. Abuse. It was an abuse. Because I did not know what was going on, and I did not agree with it. It just happened. And it's now that I know that what happened was an abuse.
Young, probably naive, but free with family. Rather, friends and family. It could have been a safe haven until the laughter stopped and my life was cropped. It was all smiles at first, something I knew how to do best. But then my story switched gear, 'cause I was thrown into the lion's den.
She threatens me to touch my body. When I complain, she will say I'm naughty. Dad was not around, but inside her room I'm bound. Fingers put to her lid for silence. I'm placing my body in violence.
I'll cringe within, for he's family. I'm placed in his care for safekeeping. What safekeeping? He was just self-seeking. He made it feel right, but it never did. He threatened to hit me, for fear could not leave me. I stay still and watch him violate me. I grew up scared, too scared and ashamed. Why wouldn't I hate boys? The pain we cover beneath our smiles. Can't relate at school. Can't stand a man. Hurt and scared to trust. If we start to talk, our stories would not end. And all this happens behind closed doors.
Child sexual abuse is a crippling global issue, with the voices of victims often going unheard. Here in Lagos, Nigeria, we're going to take a deeper look at why child sexual abuse happens, what facilities are in place after children have been violated, and what can be done to prevent further instances of child sexual abuse from happening in the future. So why exactly does child sexual abuse happen, and why are people getting away with it?
It's important to highlight that we also have female perpetrators as well as male perpetrators of child sexual abuse. One of the major reasons why they get away with what they've done is this. Our legal system in Nigeria, sincerely, is lax and sloppy. I've always said that we need to get our legal system right. If we're able to get our legal system right, every other thing will fall into place. Of course, our church culture, we tend to avoid the stigma, and families also tend to make the child keep quiet. We have this culture of not taking issues like this up. Now, because of things like this, people get away with what they've done. Of course, we have this culture of children being seen, not heard. That they should be seen and not heard. Children should be heard, not only seen. So when we begin to make children seen, this issue of child sexual abuse would not be gotten away with by perpetrators. Of course, we also have that children don't report the issue as a result of fear. Where does it come from? Some mothers escalate issues. They shout, they blame the child, and the rest of the sexually abused children tend to keep quiet. So if a child sees the mother abusing and cussing out a child who has been sexually abused, other children would now say, I wouldn't want mommy to get this angry at me because of this. I'd rather keep quiet and suffer in silence. So that culture of silence must be broken.
I like to think I was around 10 or 12 years old when it happened. The first time it happened, actually, it was my cousin, my maternal cousin. And I like to think that she used her age and authority to execute it because I was a child and we spent much time together when family was not around, when my mom would go to work and she comes over to take care of us. So I remember that the first time it happened, I can always recall vividly because it was something happened that had never happened before. While we were on the act, I remember telling her that I felt like urinating, like peeing, and she told me it's okay, I could pee inside. That's why I can never forget that particular incident, that particular day, because something happened in me and I felt, and that was the first time I ejaculated. That's why I cannot forget that.
Tijani spoke quite candidly about the sexual abuse that he faced as a young boy. The effects of such abuse on the individual are long-lasting, but has society been affected by this trend of child sexual abuse?
We can see the ripple effects of sexual abuse on the society today in diverse manners. In 2000, I was in the Punch and I was writing this column. I had this column 2 pages a day in a week then. And one of the days I thought I should write about child sexual abuse, and over 2,000 responses came. I mean, written responses by post, and 65% were adult men. Of course, the rest were adult women as well, because it was adults who responded. But what that showed, there were people who were hurting in the country, and it occurred to me that we were sitting on a time bomb. Child sexual abuse has been happening for ages. It just didn't start. It's not foreign, and we're seeing the ripple effects where now we're not seeing it's not just a 60-year-old man or 40-year-old or 25-year-old molesting a 3, 2, 7. We're seeing children also becoming abusers, molesting other children. And that is in a number that is so unprecedented and is not being documented. And it doesn't really get conviction and it doesn't even get noticed because everybody's expecting that it's the adult man or the adult woman who's going to molest a boy or a girl. And so we're beginning to see diverse, when the dynamics began to change, media couldn't even recognize it. About 2009 upwards, we began to see more younger abusers going down. And it is telling us that because we're not taking care of a problem, that is why. Society needs to have a rethink. We need to look at the options that if somebody is convicted of child sexual abuse, of course we're not getting many convictions, but the ones we're getting, they should go to jail. And when they're there, they need rehabilitation. And we need to create a space for people who are having the tendency or who are already molesting and they've not been caught, but they don't want to continue. They really need help. And when they come out, that's not the time to convict them, but to say, okay, let's help this person. Because we'll get more of them to help us help those who are still out there. There's a lot of pain out there. There's a lot of gap in our interventions, and we need to do this.
Princess sparks some food for thought on the effects child sexual abuse is having on society at large. Deputy Country Representative for the UN Women speaks specifically about the incidences among women and young girls. Child abuse is becoming a growing concern around the world. Do you think that the number of cases of child abuse are increasing, or it's more that people are just more able to speak out about what's happened to them?
I think it's both. For me, you may have more child abuse, socio-economic situations of parents, when you're a child and you have children, you have to take care of them. It may trigger more abuse. When we look at the numbers in terms of violence against women in Nigeria, it can contradict these assumptions. Because usually we have the tendency to link violence against women to poverty. But the numbers in Nigeria are showing we have more violence against women in the south than in the north. The south being much richer. It may be from many reasons why we have this situation in Nigeria. Just because maybe in the Islamic culture, women are, the less tendency maybe to abuse women. It's maybe also linked to the fact that these women don't openly claim rights. So there were so many things that entered into consideration that sometimes it is very difficult to know what is the reason why we have highest numbers. But a good thing is at least people are more sensitized about it and are talking more about it.
Why should people care about child sexual abuse? If you ask me personally, I think it's a very sensitive issue, but I think it's an issue that I feel people are not taking as serious as they should. Victims of child abuse are often not able to speak up, because of the trauma that they go through, or sometimes they go through a lot of threats from the perpetrators of these acts, and therefore they put a lot of fear in the minds of these children, and they're not able to speak up. And it's dangerous because if they're not able to speak up, they go through this trauma for a very long time. And it could be anyone. It could be your child that's going through something like this from the hands of somebody that you put them to be in charge of. So I think raising awareness or bringing up issues of child abuse is important, because now the child knows that, okay, what this person is doing is actually wrong, then I can talk to somebody. Because like I said, the perpetrators put into the minds of these children that it's a normal thing, or they make them feel like if they come out, something would happen to them. And a lot of times the children keep quiet and just go through this pain and trauma alone. So I think it's important that child abuse issues are properly addressed, and a lot of awareness should be raised on this issue.
I think it's very, very crucial that children or young people or anyone that's been sexually abused come forward, because at the end of the day, I believe that of course it's a personal fight and nobody has gone through what you've gone through, and no one can even fathom or imagine what you've been through, but at the same time try to think about how many people you inspire. And one of the reasons why sexual abuse and sex abuse and rape and things like that, the reason why people don't come forward is because it's downcast in society. There's so much stigma attached to it, understandably. But if we open up about it and talk about it, people won't be able to get away with it, because it's like, all right, society's talking about it now. If I sexually abuse this child, she's going to go report it to someone. Whereas for now, society is very aware that there's lots of stigma attached and we're scared to talk, so they can continue to abuse you. Maybe when you grow up and you have children, they can do it to your children. So if we get society talking about it and remind them that, what's been done to you is wrong, you need to come forward, let's all talk about it, then, it won't be in the dark anymore. It will come out, come to the light, and people have no choice but to stop being perpetrators and to stop doing things like this. And on top of that, I just kind of feel like inside me, this might sound a bit shallow, but I feel like when you don't come out and talk about it, you've allowed that person to get away with it. Like, how dare that person do something to you and get away with it? If you murder someone, if you run someone over with your car, if you commit fraud, corruption, sometimes corruption, not all the time in this country, you're penalised for it. So why shouldn't you be penalised? Don't let the attacker, don't let the perpetrator get away with it. They should be punished. What they've done is very, very wrong. It's a crime against you, your mind and your body, and they shouldn't be able to get away with it.
I also had another experience with a supposed pastor. His own was a bit of gave me a bit of concern, because it was a father figure that I looked up to. There are a lot of people believe that, he is expected to teach us way to go, the way of light. And, he ended up taking advantage of me, because I had to go to his place to receive phone calls. Then we used to have what they call the 999 stuff. There was no regular GSM. I had to go to his place to receive phone calls. He would have arranged it in such a way that when I get to their house, he's always the only one available, so that he can do whatever he wants to. And I'll keep saying that, please. It was very big. He were very big, huge and chubby. And you can imagine what I would look like then. I'm talking about over 20 years ago. And I was wondering, why? And at a point, I stopped going to receive phone calls at this place, because I could no longer take it. I remember very well when I was seeking admission as well. That same man, I had cause to go back to him because I didn't meet up with a cutoff mark, and it was to help me. It was a board of one of our institutions in Nigeria, and it was to help me with my admission. I remembered on our way, he refused to allow his driver to take us. So he decided to drive. And on the way, his hand was all over my, all over my, underneath my clothes in the car. And I told him I was going to open the door and get out of the car. And, he stopped. And somehow along the way, he just started, he acted as if he was dozing off. And I was like, oh, sorry, I need to park and take some rest before we continue the trip. Only for us to find ourselves in an hotel. He actually drove me into an hotel and he wanted to have his way. And I refused him. And, and that cost me my admission for that year. I had to stay at home for like another 2-3 years before I could get into school. And it went on, like that. And I had to live with all that. And, I remember I became aggressive. I became withdrawn. I became, at a bit of any little thing, I get angry. I feel irritated. And they were wondering, what's always wrong with you? You are hard on people. You are naughty. You are this. And nobody bothered to find out what exactly was actually eating me up. I remember at the time my parents were a bit concerned, but they thought probably maybe I was possessed or something, and they had to do deliverance, not knowing exactly what I was going through, And I had to live with it for years, and I didn't tell anybody. And I remember when I eventually told my aunt, she found it very difficult to believe because my uncle and the pastor in question were people that they so much respected and looked up to, and they were like, "You mean they did that?" And I said yes. So it was just a whole lot growing up and I haven't gone through abuse.
One of the major causes of why I was exposed to this abuse was because of my dad and my mom. They separated when we were 6 years old. Yeah, when I was 6, they separated when I was 6. So they were not staying together. So having to go back and forth, my mom and my dad, from my mom to my dad, and they were not paying much attention because when you are with dad has to work, and when you are with mom has to work to take care of the family. So because they themselves were not paying much attention to us, so that was why I was exposed to my bigger cousins because they had to come around to take care of us. So sometimes when mom is out, we had to go over to their place to go and stay until mom is back. So that's why it happened. That I've not talked to anyone before because it's family. It's different when you are being abused by someone, by a stranger, someone you don't know. You run to family. When something happens outside, it is family that you run to. But when it's a family member, when it's your sister, because I consider her to be my sister, my elder sister. So when it's coming from your family, it's coming from your cousin and very close relatives. And who are you going to say it to? I can't say it to my mom because somehow, as a child, I think I had little fear and respect, and I was also convinced by her that I shouldn't say it to anybody, that you can keep it a secret, and because I never really understood what it was when I was a child, so I never had reasons to say it to anyone. And ever since, now coming to understand that I was sexually abused as a child, it's personally, I think it's shameful saying to somebody and I reporting it to my mom when I'm now. And boys, society of today, boys are supposed to be self-reliant, resilient, and it's hard for a male child to come up to you and tell you that he was abused by a child because of the way society looks at male children. So I've never said it to anyone. This is my first time of saying that.
Domestic circumstances can play a huge role in the safety and well-being of children. What exactly can parents do if they find out that their child has been sexually abused?
So what can parents do when this has happened? We have centers here in Lagos like the Mirabel Center. We have hospitals that have clinical psychologist sections where they have certified clinical psychologists and psychotherapists who handle issues like child sexual abuse and other psychological issues emanating or resulting from being sexually abused. And as a parent, you should not blame the child. This will increase trauma. When a child has been sexually abused, the child should not be blamed for it. The adult is to be blamed for it because the adult should know better. Don't say negative things around the child or discuss the negative aspects of having been sexually abused. This may heighten guilt feeling. As a parent, don't express your intense negative emotions around the child. This might also increase self-blame. When you express your intense negative emotions around the child might begin to blame himself or herself for getting into trouble. As parents, we need to encourage children to speak out. If a child has been sexually abused or you suspect the child is being sexually abused, you have to encourage the child to speak out. And you have to encourage the child. Even during treatment, you have to show love. You have to care for the child. You have to tell the child that you are not angry with him or her, but with the perpetrator who did the wrong thing. The child must be protected. The child is priority. Do not allow the child to feel isolated or alienated. It's important you allow the child to gradually heal. Don't ask too many questions, especially relating to the abuse, without the presence of a professional. Of course, as parents, when you have suspected this or when it has happened, you have to assist the child to express himself or herself. We have psychotherapy procedures like combined parent-child cognitive behavioral therapy that would help in this regard.
Do we have enough facilities in Nigeria or even in the States for to help meet the demand of sexual abuse? No. In 2005, we opened the first rape crisis center in the entire country. And I can tell you, I think we handled over more than 20,000 cases, individual cases, across the country. And the ones that we had physically. But then, in Nigeria now, we have advanced to having hospital-based sexual referral centers. I think we have like 5. There's one in Lagos. Then we have another private one in Lagos that operates, that has medical facility in it, rape crisis center, somewhere in Yaba. But then in the entire country, even in the States, what we have cannot meet the demands. And the hospitals are not as equipped or educated, in terms of professionalism. And so we don't have enough. We have a lot of people who are self-advocates, which is not bad, who mean well, but are not qualified to actually be able to help victims in terms of counseling, trauma management, in terms of even the victim advocates that they're not as trained to be able to do that. But the good thing about this is that we have more people who are interested in helping, which is a good thing. But it's good for them to also get trained, at least paralegal, a little bit of victim advocacy, so that they can be able to do what they're doing and do it well. So really, we need more. It's a huge gap missing in there. Mental health issues need to be looked at as well. Once people are coming in as being raped or being violated as children, the mental health intervention needs to take off almost immediately, and for their families as well, because a family that discovers that their child has been molested are highly traumatized and very vulnerable. So it is something that we need to look into.
The major healing factor for me was God. And the second healing factor was my friend, my husband. He actually gave me a voice. Because early stage into our marriage, we had a lot of issue in our sex life. It was a big issue, and I had to tell him my story. And he encouraged me. He bought me books. He found me a mentor, that was able to let me believe that was not me, that was actually my past. And everybody has a past. And that's the truth about life. The only thing is that is either a good or a bad one. But what matters most is the future. I just had to face the future, and move on with life. I still suffer from flashback. But I remember those early years in my marriage, when I sit down, like, I was expectant then, I was carrying my first child. And the flashbacks will come, and I would like, will my children go through the same thing? If no, then what is the way forward? What we can do as a society is to stop sweeping abuse under the carpet, stop covering it up. If you see something, you say something. Then let's all get informed, equipped, and educated so that we can protect our children.